ॐ सर्वमङ्गलमाङ्गल्ये शिवे सर्वार्थसाधिके शरण्ये त्र्यम्बके गौरी नारायणि नमोऽस्तुते। स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। पवित्रं चरितं यस्याः पवित्रं जीवनं तथा पवित्रता स्वरूपिण्यै तस्यै कूर्मो नमो नमः। नमः श्रीयतिराजाय विवेकानन्दसूरये सच्चित्सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे। Dear devotees, just I think 2 weeks back we had met and discussed a little bit of teachings of Swami Brahmananda, that too based on the new book by Swami Chaitanyaji Maharaj by the name Spiritual Guide, the Teachings of Swami Brahmananda, wherein we started with a discussion, one devotee asking a question to revered Brahmanji Maharaj. He raises the question, suppose in a house a boy becomes a monk, one boy becomes a monk, and a second brother may be a householder, and a brother or a sister may become an anti-social element in a family. All this happens due to the tendencies are called samskaras. Then Maharaj says, not exactly so. It is due to the free will, or we can put it as self-effort. Then again the doubt arises. He says, suppose the duck, when the egg of a duck hatches, the young ones approaches the water, whereas the chicken, he never approaches the water, never searches for a water after it hatches, but it is always afraid of a kite or eagle. Hearing this, Maharaj says, though it is difficult to say free will or to explain it exactly, but a duck, when it is in egg, never wills to go near a water, or a chicken, until unless a free will arises or a will arises, it is not afraid of a kite or a eagle. So Maharaj stresses the point that there is self-effort, there is a value for self-effort or free will to exert ourselves to bring out the character. Finally, we discuss that according to Swamiji also, suppose if we are what we are today due to what we were in the past life or past so many years of our life, it follows that what we want tomorrow can be exerted based on today. If we want to bring out a character of so-called a spiritual giants like Swami Yatishwaranji Maharaj, Vireshwaranji Maharaj, Gambhiranji Maharaj, anybody, we have to exert today to bring out a character of such a spirituality. So it defines that if we take the samskaras, we are today because of the resultant force, but we can be what we can or what we want to based on today's action. So today is left to us based on free will. This is the intention of Swami Brahmanji Maharaj. Though samskaras have their say in our life, have their say with respect to constitution of the mind, have their say with respect to these complexities in the mind, but we have got something called self-effort or so-called Ichcha Shakti, through which we can exert ourselves and proceed further to attain what we want in this life. And while in discussions with Sharat Chandra in dialogues with Swami Vivekananda, there Swamiji mentions what we think of this divine grace is always existing irrespective of our understanding of the divinity. Divine grace is ever existing. But we can understand our divine grace exists or manifests through this mind and body only through self-effort. Swamiji makes a clear statement. Any amount of divine help is of no avail unless you put yourself to task and break the inertia. So to understand a divine help, to understand a divine grace, sitting is of no avail. We should start working through which we can understand the grace. So, Maharaj also makes a point. As the mind becomes purer, determination becomes stronger. Determination brings a purer mind, through which it brings a purer determination. So it is directly proportional. One brings the other brings this thing. Purity, determination, purity, determination. So we have to start with the self-effort. With this, we will continue. And at the end, we just saw a little bit life of that saint of Loyola, that Saint Ignatius. He had such a tremendous willpower. He formed a wonderful man. Earlier he was so sensuous and so much left to crime and all those things in society. But through his self-effort, he is called man of willpower. In his life, it is a man of willpower. By this saint, he transformed himself only through Ichcha Shakti, the willpower, the self-effort, exerting every day to what extent he wanted to grow. Therein, we saw he was so much wounded in the war, put into the castle. He had to lie down for months together, not 1 or 2 days. So more than 10 to 12 months he was on the bedridden. He had lost his leg, so much wounded. His bones were protruding outside his leg, and the surgeon wanted to cut his leg. He wanted to saw the leg, and he put out his leg and said, you can saw without anesthesia. It is a 16th century story. There was no anesthesia during that time. The surgeon had to saw the leg without giving any anesthesia. He has such a tremendous willpower. He withstood. Why? Because he wanted to please the queen of the country, Spain. But when he started studying the life of Jesus Christ, started studying Saint Francis of Assisi, what he understood, these saints, without waging a war, without hurting a single man, without having a sword, without having a gun, could conquer people's heart, and they could wail so much in this world. Their character are so much formed, they can influence the people of the whole world. So many people are their followers. What is the secret of this following? This question started in him, and he understood it is the character of Christ which transforms people, and not the war, neither the money nor the fame. Then he thought he should become a soldier in the kingdom of heaven, not on this earth. He wanted to become a soldier in the kingdom of heaven to follow Christ. He went out. He saw a beggar sitting there. He took out the clothes. He gave all his kingly clothes to that beggar and took out the rags from him. Wearing a beggar's cloth, he went out and himself sat in a cave for many years. And his method of exerting his body through taxing, stressing his body through what? He had a nail, he had a cross made out of nail, always he used to keep it on his chest. Body, that is shirt, made out of a fenced wire, and he used to sleep on the nails, hit his body with stones, to make it understand that this flesh has enjoyed so much of this worldly enjoyment, he wanted to transcend the physical limitedness of this body through exertion of the will from the mind. He did for so many years, and he has written a book in English, in Spanish. It has been, I think, now translated to English by name Spiritual Practices by Saint Ignatia of Loyola. There he mentions one support for meditation. He says, you study the life of Christ. How to study it? You be a part of his life, a member in his family. You are studying, yes, you are sitting in Jerusalem, walking with the Christ, seeing all the good and evil in the society. Walk with him, transcend the evil, take the good, and with him go, take the cross, and come to Mount Zion. It is the mount where Christ was crucified, Mount Zion. You ascend the mount, ascending the mount, ascend the heaven. These are all very wonderful statements if you can understand it. He says, ascend the heaven through the Christ, taking the cross on the hill of Mount Zion. This is we call as Leela Dhyana in our scriptures. What this Bhakti Vedanta says is, you do the dhyana of your Ishta, taking the Leelas of his life. He has done so much Leela in this world, that Avatara. Meditate on each incident of that Leela and associate yourselves with that personality, being a member there in that circle. That is Leela Dhyana. And this Ignatius also gives the same hint to follow, to have that divinity experienced in the heart. Then later, he had two important disciples. One Saint Xavier and one more saint called Level, L-E-V-R-E. How it's a proper noun. How they pronounce it, a Spanish name. You can pronounce in any way. Nouns can be pronounced, proper nouns. This Xavier, you know, he was in Goa and his body is still preserved. He is the follower or the disciple of this Saint Ignatius. Then this Liver, he was so much attached to his guru, this Ignatius, he said, I wanted to be trained under you. Then he says, if you want to train under me, I have a special instructions for you. Then he said, he took him to a snow-clad mountain, put him in a deserted house. It's a single deserted house, so lonely. The temperature is minus 30 to minus 40 degrees Celsius. He asked him, 6 days, don't take any food. 6 days passed. 7th day, Ignatius came and told, whole night you stand in the outside in this winter season without wearing a cloth, without wearing any shoes, on the snow without clothes. He asked him to say, then he says, what are all the psychological repercussions? What are the repercussions that mind arises, that body says, no, the body will die. You say, yes, nothing will happen, body will remain. Exert yourself. He trains him so much that with the sheer will, that Lever could stand the night without food, without water, without a clothing in that winter of 40 degree minus temperature. He trains, this Ignatius trains based on those psychological. He is one of the, in Western psychology generally, Freud is called the father of psychology. Now, present generation says, because he invented the causes for dream and subconscious mind. Our Shastras has declared long back, but modern psychology says Freud as the father of psychology. But Christian missionary says it is Saint Ignatius who invented all these, and he is exactly called the father of the psychology. So he has defined so much inside the mind and repercussions based on the sheer willpower, and he says, if you want strength of the physical body, what you do? You do exercises? Yes. If you want the mental strength, what you do? You study wonderful books. If you want to get God, exert your willpower. He says in that book, if you want God, you exert your willpower and realize Him. It's not necessary. He never says divine grace, though it is there, but he says through willpower, through exertion, through self-effort, we are definitely can experience the divinity within. So, this is the part I wanted to mention a little bit of Christianity, that's all, because they are also wonderful saints who lived and tremendously, you have to study in detail. Saint Francis of Assisi, he was so much come up with seeing the lepers on the street, he could not tolerate that nostalgia, what you call hesige. Nostalgia used to happen seeing the lepers. Then to come out, what he did, he brought a leper, kissed that wound, and he came out of nostalgia. It is all willpower. And throughout his life, he started serving the lepers. He is Assisi. And Saint Teresa of Avila, she has so much physical problem, so much every day bedridden. She was a nun for 20 years in one monastery. After 20 years, she was put out of the monastery because of ill health. But the sheer exertion and willpower, those we can study. There are wonderful books in our library also. The Saints Who Walked on Razor's Edge is the title of that book with respect to Christian saints. There we can see so much exerted they have in that taking their self-effort and Icha Shakti. Then Swamiji also mentions it is not necessary for a common man to say divinity, God, divine grace. It is there, but nobody can understand divine grace unless one exerts himself through his willpower. Only a Mukta Purusha can understand the divine grace in a truest extent, and divine grace in a truest extent, and the Icha, the will of God. Simply we say, idella devariche, but we don't understand because we are not experienced. We have not experienced this body and mind itself, and how can we experience the will of God without understanding the will of this human being? So, Swamiji says, exert yourselves, and he says, mentions one word, Purushakara. He uses the word Purushakara in the complete verse. We have to exert ourselves. We should do our self-exertion every day, through which only personality comes. Divine grace is automatically there behind everybody without our asking for it. So, if we come to Thakurma Swamiji, if you study the sadhana part of Sri Ramakrishna, he did tapasya for 12 long years. You see, just to give one insight, if you study the Christian saints, they did so much exertion, self-effort, but they taxed their body physically also with nails, with blood, with piercing, stigmata, so many things are there, purgation, purgatory, hell, all those things, sins. But if you come to the tradition of Thakurma Swamiji, what we see, there is self-exertion, there is determination, there is willpower accompanied with one more component, wonderful component called bliss, happiness. We come to Thakur, we come to we come to Swamiji, though they stand in all these aspects, but they stand one step above giving happiness. We'll feel some satisfaction inside, though Sri Ramakrishna exerted himself with so much austerities in 12 years, he lost sleep, he lost appetite, he forgot sleep, he never slept. Still, he had full of bliss. Ma, with so much work, 24 hours of the day, she was working in Jairam Bhatti, cooking, etc., but still she is full of bliss. Swamiji happened to take food during his wandering days in India. He used to get 4 days once meal, 5 days once meal, 6 days once meal, 1 week without meals, walking 10 to 15 miles every day or traveling all over India, but still so much of happiness and bliss coming out. So, Sri Ramakrishna has stressed much on the bliss aspect of the Brahman. There's so much things to understand here with Thakurma Swamiji. Yes, Whatever they have achieved, we can achieve, but Sri Ramakrishna says you add one more component of prarthana, the prayer, with a bit of love, that bhakti. It happens through willpower, it happens to self-effort, yes, true. You add little bit of love, which you had towards your wife and children, father and mother. You add the same love, no problem in the beginning. You add to willpower, you add to self-exertion, you add to it, then you will have the bliss and you will have the personality framed in spirituality. So, this is the extra component we have to add after studying these. If we study the Christian missionaries to understand the willpower also. Then, continuing, I will read few sentences from Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna to further the topic, wherein now Sri Ramakrishna is sitting with the devotees. Vijay Krishna Goswami is also sitting there with him. Seeing Vijay Krishna Goswami, Sri Ramakrishna is so much happy because he is a wonderful sadhaka. He is, though he was in Brahma Samaj, we does not believe in idol worship, but still he is a wonderful sadhaka, great sadhaka who had wonderful visions and so many darshanas. With Vijay, Sri Ramakrishna is speaking. Thakur says, Vijay is really guileless. One cannot realize God without being guileless and liberal-minded. Yesterday, Vijay was other saint's house. He behaved as if it were his own place, and those who lived there his own people. One cannot be guileless and liberal-minded unless one is free from worldliness. Then the master sang, you will attain the priceless treasure when your mind is free from stain. He continued, you cannot make a pot without first carefully preparing the clay. The pot will crack if the clay contains particles of sand or stone. That is why the potter first prepares the clay by removing the sand and stones. The Vedanta says that a man does not even desire to know God unless he has a pure mind. One cannot be guileless and liberal-minded without much tapasya, or unless it is one's last birth. First thing, Sri Ramakrishna is focusing on one thing, guilelessness and liberal-minded. सरल ना होले ईश्वर लाभ होबे ना. सरल ना होले ईश्वर लाभ होबे ना. If one is not guileless, one cannot realize God. This is Sri Ramakrishna saying. Here, Sri Ramakrishna is saying, Vijay is so guileless, saral and liberal-minded. How does it happen? Remove the dross of worldliness. He gives the example of a clay which contains sand and stone, cannot be framed into a pot because it breaks. So you have to remove the dross of worldliness through, he is saying, one cannot be guileless and liberal-minded without much tapasya. Sri Ramakrishna here is bringing one concept of tapasya which Brahmanji Maharaj said as will, free will, or self-exertion, or self-effort. Here, one more person came, Adarsen, just to mention the fact. Adarsen, when he first met Sri Ramakrishna, he came and saw Thakur. Sri Ramakrishna went into Bhava Samadhi. Till then, he had seen trances with respect to one of the teacher. Occasionally, he also used to go into some sort of trance. Then, seeing Sri Ramakrishna, he went and told his friend, the teacher, he told, seeing you, I thought, this bhava, this trance, this samadhi, I never wanted. I was so much disgusted with your trance and thought you are experiencing so much pain, because his face was emanating so much pain. seeing Thakur, he saw bliss coming out of that place, mandahasa on his face, and he saw this is true Bhava Samadhi. Then he understood what Bhava Samadhi means. Means that bliss should emanate through the face. Our exertion and willpower should manifest on the face as a bliss, not on dullness and painful and pain. Then say, better don't do tapasya, don't do japa. It is better sit and live one ordinary man's life. Our face and body and mind should transmit bliss through tapasya. So Thakur is saying, through tapasya one can have guilelessness and liberal-mindedness. Then he makes one more statement, says, one must inherit good tendencies to realize God. As Brahmanji said, the doctor said, we need samskaras to be a good man. Thakur in first sentence says, yes, one has to inherit tendencies to realize God. Then he says, one must have done something, some form of tapasya, either in this life or in the another. If we say that somebody from the childhood is so much devoted to God, then he has done tapasya in previous life. He is so much devoted at a younger age, he has done at the childhood. He is at the age old days, he has done something in the middle of his life. Then Thakur says, when Draupadi's clothes were being taken off, she cried earnestly, praying to God. God revealed himself to her and said, try to remember whether you have ever made a gift of a cloth to anyone. Then your modesty will be preserved. Draupadi replied, yes, I remember now. Once a rishi was taking his bath when his loin cloth was carried away by the current. I tore off half of my cloth and gave it to him. Thereupon the Lord said, then you have nothing to fear. If we want to attain, get in return something, we should have done something. So, to attain something in spiritual life, it is necessary to perform tapasya. Without austerity, we cannot expect anything in this life, especially spiritual life. Worldly life, it is true. I will come to some of those things now also. Spiritual life, willpower, self-reflection is a must, which we call tapasya or austerities. Without tapasya, without austerity, nothing can be expected in spiritual life. If we see this Taittiriya Upanishad, there that Bhrigu Muni comes to Varuni. He asks, I want to know Brahman. Then what is Bhrigu's instruction? Bhrigurvai Varunihi Varunam Pitara Mupasasara. Then continues, he says, Tapasa Brahma Vijignasasva. Such a wonderful statement. Tapasa Brahma Vijignasasva. By tapas, you realize Brahman. He did not say there is God's will, there is divine grace, He will help you. No. What he told? Tapasa Brahma Vijignasasva. Through tapas, you realize God or Brahman. What does Vijignasasva mean? Jignasa is gnatum icha, desire to know. Desire to know is, that is utupratya pratyaya. Gnatum icha means to know, desire to know. Here there is a upasarga vi, Vijignasasva. What is that viheshana? Means not only you know the Brahman, you realize it. You realize that Brahman. How? By tapas. What is tapas then? For that, Acharya Shankara makes a statement, Manasascha Indriyanancha Aikagrim Tapa Uchyate. Manasascha Indriyanancha Aikagrim. Mana and Indriya Aikagrim means concentration of the energies of the mind and the sense organs. Concentration of the energies of the mind and the sense organs is called tapas, according to the statement of Acharya Shankara. There are so many things we don't understand. Here, Upanishad itself is saying that only through tapas you can realize Brahman. And that tapas, meaning of tapas is, our mind and the sense organs has got energy, it has to be focused on a particular point to attain something. This is in a grosser sense. Suppose this energy we dissipate so much for taking care of this body. Is it not? So much energy we waste just to take care of this body. And second thing, just for joking sake, this hair is a dead cell. But many people spend thousands of rupees to make it green, blue, red, yellow and whatnot. And so much decorations they make for a dead cell, which is taking all our energies, which has got no meaning for this soul. What is there? Is it tapas? Is it tapas to decorate a hair? How can we say that is tapas? So much grosser level we have. How can we understand Brahman, which is beyond everything? So, here, this sense organs draws energies due to the objectivity of the world. This mind draws the energies, this body draws the energy, and dissipation happens. We lack energy, we lack focus, and therein we lack concentration, and there cannot be any tapas of sense organs and the mind. So, here, even in the present day universities, present day education system, much focus is on marks, much focus is on the framework of the subject, no focus on tapas. Without tapas, don't expect any knowledge. Without tapas, don't expect knowledge and wisdom. These two things are too far away. Earlier, people in India used to travel even on foot just to hear one word from a guru. Suppose in Bengal was known for Navya Nyaya. There were very wonderful Navya Nyaya. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a Nayayika before, a logician, wonderful logician. People in South India, just to study logic, used to travel by walking all the way to West Bengal to study Nyaya. People used to travel in northwest of Takshashila to study subjects there, stand at the gate of Takshashila. You stand for years together to get admission because every subject prescribed, tapas. Without subjects, no subject were being dealt and taught. So, this subject, this tapas aspect is lacking very much in present education in the universities, and just a certificate oriented will not bring out anything. To mention one example, there is one Negro man by name Washington D. Carver. Have you heard his name? Carver, Washington D. Carver. He is called the father of cosmetics. Whatever cosmetics you use today, he has invented. This man, as a boy, he was a slavish boy. He was a slave. He was a Negro. He was a slave. He didn't know where his mother stayed, but he and his brother stayed in one master's house. Fortunately, that mother and the master were very affectionate, took care of them, but unfortunately one day, those people who were against these Negroes came because they were taking so much care of these people, Carver. They killed the master and his wife and took away, kidnapped his brother. This Carver was left on the road. A mere boy left on the road of hardly 8 or 9 years old. What he did, he used to sleep in a horse shed, cow's shed. Then daytime, he used to stand outside the classrooms, just listen what the teacher teaches in the class. Never went and sat inside the room, but always sitting outside the room, hearing whatever he can hear, sitting outside the classrooms near the windows. Then later, he has so much hankering for knowledge. He had the tapas in him. He grew. Then he revolutionized. There's a wonderful story. There's one book on Washington D. Carver. You study. Then he made such a revolution in America during those days. They were known for cotton plantation. He converted cotton into pea plantation. Pea means what you call groundnut, kadlekai bija. Peanut plantation. He grew so much peanuts that next day he made whole America into a peanut farming. So much came out, so much peas, then everybody knocked, because as the commodity rises, demand comes down, the value of the commodity also comes down. This is law in economics. Where when demand is not there for a particular object or a commodity, then it loses its value. So, particularly sugar, they increase the demand by reducing the stock, increasing the stock, reducing the commodity in the market. Here what happened, pea was so much, nobody to purchase, and farmers have invested so much of money and they have nothing. They came to Carver and because your suggestion, you have planted peas and nothing, no money now, you have to give a solution or we are going to take out your head. What he did, he left his laboratory, went into a forest, sat for 2-3 days. Then on the third day, he came to the lab. He brought 65 formulas on cosmetics. Then somebody asked, what is the secret of your loss? He said, see, Mother Nature has got all the secrets. You should know how to tap it. He concentrated the energies of the mind and the sense organs, focused on the object to find out a solution for peanuts, and he got 65 formulas. Same thing you apply on the spirituality. You focus the energies of the sense organs and the mind and tap on the Maya, which just recedes, and you can see the Brahman. That is called tapas. Either for a worldly affair, worldly pursuits, or for a spirituality, both can be accomplished taking the support of tapas. Tapas is a basis for any wonderful pursuits in this world or hereafter to get. So, many have attained so much taking tapas, wherein I will just quote some of the slokas from Gita just to give the understanding of tapas in a more elaborate form. Actually, there are so many shastras like Patanjali Yoga Sutra is there, some of the concepts comes in Upanishads, some of there in other prescribed texts like Manusmriti also. All these things Krishna combined and put it here in the Bhagavad Gita in a very lucid form to understand for anybody and everybody. So much wonderful, so much easily understandable in the Gita. Before proceeding, I want to narrate one incident. You might have heard Chaudhary. He was the general governor of Andhra Pradesh in 1949 riots. When Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel took the decision to remove Nizam from there, Governor General Chaudhary was put in charge. After the police riots, he was put in charge, and revered Ranganathanji Maharaj was on tour in Andhra Pradesh during that time. His host took Maharaj to meet that General Chaudhary. He went there and sat, and half an hour, Maharaj writes in his books also, and he has spoken in his lecture also, I heard that. There, he was sitting, Maharaj was sitting, revered Maharaj was sitting here, and Chaudhary is narrating something of his own experiences of the riots. Maharaj, first half an hour, Maharaj said, first half an hour, he spoke. Then, after that, in between, because of that riot condition, so much phone calls were coming for Chaudhary, he used to attend. Then, in the meantime, Maharaj saw a book on his table. That book was Bhagavad Gita. Then, after his phonic conversation, Maharaj asked him, do you read Bhagavad Gita? He said, yes, Maharaj. Why do you read Bhagavad Gita? Then he said, to get peace of mind, because I am in so much stress at this particular hour, particular situation, particular circumstance. I am so much stressed. To get mental peace, I read Gita. Maharaj, when I first heard it, it was a very wonderful new concept for me. Maharaj said, Gita is not there to give you peace of mind. Bhagavad Gita is not there to give peace of mind. He was amazed and struck. Then what is there for this? This book is meant for what? Maharaj said, it is there to teach you the responsibility, being a governor general of the state, to become a wonderful citizen of this country, to compromise life and action, to coordinate, to comprehend life and action here on this earth. He was so much wonderstruck. I was also, when I first heard it, I was so much struck with these thoughts of Reverend Maharaj. Then he said, how come Gita can teach you? Is it really true? Maharaj said, yes, the responsibility of a man here on this earth has been wonderfully explained by a simple term called yoga in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita takes the word yoga to show the responsibility. He said, Ikshvaku, I taught this knowledge of yoga to Ikshvaku. In 4th chapter, first sloka, it begins. There, he said that responsibility was given to Ikshvaku. Later, Shankara says, due to lack of Indriya Nigraha, people could not understand that yoga and we lost it. And nowadays also you don't have that responsibility to understand that. So you better understand Gita to know how to work and being a good citizen of this country and how to be a good general. Because it was taught to a Kshatriya called Arjuna on the battlefield, it is there to understand the life and action, to comprehend the meaning of all these things. Then Maharaj sent him lectures to Colombo, to Almora. It is very, very necessary to understand Gita before understanding Swamiji and then study Gita. We do so much puja, japa, phalasamarpana, coconut offering, dhupa offering, everything to Vishnu Sahasranama, Lalita Sahasranama, Bhagavad Gita. Many, I think every citizen in India, most of them have a copy of Bhagavad Gita in a puja griha, well kept, well offered, put vibhuti, put kumkum, put chandana, everything. But never we open a page and read and understand and assimilate and practice with tapas. Now time has gone. It is not the time to worship. Yes, first practice something in the life. This is the central essence of Swamiji, central essence of Bhagavad Gita. That's why this tapas has got so much meaning. Here, Krishna in the 17th chapter brings us 3 concepts of tapas. I will just read. We have no time to explain. Next time we will see. Here in the 14th sloka of 17th chapter, first he speaks in 3 levels. Tapas in 3 levels. First level, Deva Dvija Guru Pragna Pujanam Shaucham Arjavam Brahmacharyam Ahimsa Cha Shariram Tapa Uchyate. Tapa Uchyate. That tapa is said as what? As Shariram Tapa. Tapas of the physical body. What do you call the tapas of physical body? Deva, Dvija, Guru, Pragna, Pujanam. Deva is God. Dvija is twice born. This physical birth we had so many years back. After our spiritual initiation, we will have the second birth. He is called a Dvija. Dvija, Guru, our Guru, and Pragna is a wise person. One should have reverence to all these persons. This is physical tapas. Second, Shaucham, it is purity. Then Arjavam means straightforwardness. This is comes from Rujutva, gives the meaning of Arjavam. Brahmacharyam is continence. Ahimsa, non-violence. All these forms only physical tapas. This physical tapas itself, we get so much time to attain, and Krishna says this is just the physical tapas. Then he comes to the second part, wherein he says, Vangmaya, the tapas of the speech. What is called the tapas of speech? Anudvegakaram vakyam, satyam, priyahitancha yat. That which, yat means that which. Swadhyaya bhyasanam chaiva vangmayam tapa uchyate. Anudvega, udvega is with emotion, or udvega is that which brings udvigna. Anudvigna, it should not hurt anybody. Our speech should not hurt anybody. That is anudvegakaram vakyam. It should not hurt anybody also. And second part, it should be satyam, not asatya. But priyahitan. How Manu says, satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat, na bruyat, satyam apriyam. You tell truth, but don't tell truth which is harming or which is very unpleasant. Don't tell a truth which is unpleasant. That is priyahitan. And swadhyaya, which swadhyaya earlier it is to mean study of scriptures. Now also it is there. If you want to know something of God life, we have to take recourse to Upanishads, without which we cannot understand. It is a true swadhyaya is study of scriptures. See, Brahmaji Maharaj says so much. See, we had Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa to see what is spiritual life. Nowadays, who is there to teach what is spiritual life? Take recourse to study of scriptures, Maharaj says. Here, this is the tapas of the speech. Physical tapas we saw, this is the second step called the speech. If I want to quote one example, there's one wonderful example in Valmiki Ramayana. When Hanuman, when he comes to the Sundarakanda, here, when first time Sri Ramachandra meets Hanuman in the guise of a Brahmin, Rama says to Lakshmana, he is a Pandita. How come hearing the speech of Hanuman, Rama could understand the depth of Hanuman and he says he is a Pandita? This example we see when he goes to Lanka to see the whereabouts of Sita Mata, he comes back. And all have failed except Hanuman. Now everybody eagerly waiting for Hanuman with a news. Hanuman is coming, Kishkinda Kanda. There, Vali, Sugriva, everybody is sitting. Hanuman comes in the front. Rama is sitting eagerly waiting for a news. Could you see Sita? Could you have any information about her? What is the state? So much eagerness with Rama to know. Then he comes and says, Dushtva Sitam. Valmiki makes wonderful statements here. Dushtvam Sita. He says, Sa Sita. But it could have been put in the other way. Sita I saw. Sitam Dushtva, he could have told. But he said, Dushtvam Sita. Why? Valmiki explains there, this speech of Hanuman is so wonderful, so wise, so Pandita, because Rama is so much eager to hear about Sita. Suppose if he had uttered the word Sita, then in the mind of Rama, so much negative thoughts would have cropped up. And he would have thought Sita died also. Because if he had delayed in telling Dushtva, he could have imagined hundreds of thoughts. Understanding this, Hanuman said, first he said Dushtva. Then he can take time. Dushtva Pakshim, Dushtvam Ramakrishna Matham iti ityadi. He could add anything later on. But in the beginning he sold Dushtva. Then Rama got pacified. Then he told Sitam. I saw Sita. So, this tapas of vak, that speech, has got so much understanding. These are all the windows to understand a personality. These are really indications for us to form a personality. Now, next step comes, Krishna comes to the third step, manasam uchyate. What is manas? The tapas of the mind. Manaha prasadaha saumyatvam maunam atma vinigraha bhava samshuddhihi etat tapo manasam uchyate. So wonderful. Bhava samshuddhi. Sri Ramakrishna gives so much stress on this bhava samshuddhi. Purity in our resolve. Today I resolve that I will get up tomorrow at 4 o'clock. But I cannot get up at 4 o'clock. Why? There is no purity in the resolve. I don't have that conviction. I don't have that purity in that my resolution, and hence it does not come out as an action. So connect that tapas with this manas through manasam tapaha. What is manasa? manah prasadaha. The mind should become prasada. How come? We eat this objective prasada. In every matha that prasada is given. What is the indication of that prasada? See, we take prasada, we say this is offered to God. This should connect, this prasada, physical prasada should connect with the divinity through that offering. We say offered to God means, taking this prasada, I say this is being offered to God, this is also in the form of God. So taking this, my mind should become completely engrossed in God. Once the mind is engrossed in God, prasada of this kumkuma, of this external prasadam is not at all necessary. Many of the saints never take any prasada of so-called eating. So this prasada is there to bring manah prasada. This mind should become that prasada. Manah prasada is manasam tapaha. Then saumyatvam. Saumyatva is kindliness. This maunam is what you call silence. More silence, more the thoughts deeper inside. More talkative, less the thoughts inside. One is mauna, he will have so much thoughts inside. You should be a mana, all this all tapas. You should practice. He says we should take it as a practice. And atma vinigraha, that's self-control. And bhava samshuddhi means purity in our resolutions. These are all called the tapas of the mind. So, here when Maharaj says, through self-effort, through our free will, if we can attain something, infinity or divinity, all these tapas at three levels, physical, speech and the mind, these tapas should be included, without which we cannot attain anything. So, then there is one more statement. This comes in 17th chapter. One more shloka comes in 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Very, very wonderful shloka. If you can meditate, it gives wonderful meaning. This is connection with those tapas also. Vitaraga bhayak krodha manmaya mam upashritaha bahavo gnana tapasa puta madbhavam agataha. So much here, Krishna is mentioning one term. He is giving one hint. He is gnana tapasa puta. Puta means what? Purified, or you can call in English baked. Baking. Baked with what? Baked with gnana tapasa. One who is baked with a tapas of gnana, what he can attain? He can attain vitaraga bhayakrada, one who is devoid of fear, devoid of anger, devoid of attachment. Then what he is? Manmaya. He is always absorbed in me. Then he is also mam upashitaha. He takes refuge in me because of gnana tapasa puta. He is purified by or baked by gnana tapas. Then he says, what is the wonderful statement, what is the wonderful word he uses, Krishna? Bahavo, not few. He says many. Many have attained like this, not one Arjuna, many have attained. Madbhavam agataha, they all come to me. How to come to him? Taking dana as a tapas. Purifying ourselves, taking dana as a tapas. This, here, Maharaj, if you can study the universal message of Bhagavad Gita by Revered Ranganatha Anjwar, he has given almost 12 to 15 pages of explanation. If you get time, please read. Therein, this tapas, gnana, it purifies so much. If you want to become a wonderful researcher on this word, it purifies this nature and gives you the secret regarding the scientist of the world. If you can purify still more, you can be a vitaraga, you can be a manmana, you can be mamupashritaha, you can be madbhama agataha, taking this gnana as a tapas. So, he stresses so much here by Krishna. These are all wonderful hints and help for our spiritual life. Generally, we comprehend life, especially spiritual life, saying God does everything. No, He does everything through self-effort. He gives strength to practice tapas. You practice tapas, he gives some more strength to practice some more tapas. He will practice tapas, again your Shakti of tapas will increase, then we become Vitaraga by Krodha. Never Krishna told, you, the divine grace is there, you take refuge. No, he says, you be a Gnana Tapasvi. You become Puta by Gnana Tapasa. He did not say, take divine grace and become Puta. No, you become Puta by Gnana Tapasa. So all these things have to be connected. With this, we will conclude. We will see, we may continue whenever we get our time next time. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Rama Krishna Arpanamastu.